22 June 1963, the world welcomes a future star, a man who would go on to become one of the most celebrated figures in UFC history. His name? Randy Couture, known as The Natural. Today, we're going deep into Randy Couture's wins, losses, and what he's been up to in 2024. Randy Couture is more than just a UFC fighter. He's a pioneer, an athlete who fought in 2 different weight classes, a Hall of Famer, and even an actor. You may think you know the story, but there are layers to Randy Couture's career that still influence the sport today. What's more impressive, a fighter who wins every match, or one who keeps coming back stronger after every loss? Stick around because we're about to answer that. In this video, we'll explore how Couture's wins shaped his legacy, how his losses taught him to come back even stronger, and the recent news surrounding this UFC icon in 2024. So whether you're a hardcore MMA fan or just learning about the sport, you're in for an inspiring story about a true legend. To understand the greatness of Randy Couture, you have to go back to the very beginning. Born in Everett, Washington, Couture didn't have the typical upbringing you might expect from a future UFC champion. He wasn't raised in a household focused on combat sports. In fact, his journey began on a wrestling mat during his time at Oklahoma State University. Couture became a 3-time All-American and a 4-time finalist at the NCAA Division I championships. But even at this point, MMA wasn't on his radar. After college, Couture served in the U.S. Army, where he continued to develop his wrestling skills. Little did he know that this period of his life was preparing him for the next chapter, his entry into mixed martial arts. Randy Couture didn't make his UFC debut until 1997, at the age of 34. For many athletes, that's an age where they might be considering retirement. But for Couture, it was just the beginning. At UFC 13, Couture entered the heavyweight tournament as a relative unknown. By the end of the night, he was the tournament champion, having won both of his fights via decision. His ability to control opponents with his grappling and his unmatched cardio made him a formidable fighter right from the start. He wasn't just winning fights, he was dominating them. Couture faced challenges early on, including a loss to Ensign Inoue in Japan. However, it was these early defeats that shaped him into the champion he would later become. Now, let's talk about what set Couture apart from other fighters, his ability to win championships in 2 different weight classes, heavyweight and light heavyweight. This achievement alone solidified his status as one of the greatest fighters in UFC history. In 2000, Couture won his first UFC heavyweight title by defeating Kevin Randleman at UFC 28. At 37 years old, he became the oldest champion in UFC history at the time, a record that would only grow as his career progressed. But here's where Couture's career takes a surprising turn. After losing his heavyweight title, Couture made the decision to drop down to light heavyweight, a division where younger, faster fighters like Chuck Liddell were waiting. Most fighters would stick to one weight class, but Couture wasn't most fighters. He made the drop and immediately became a contender. In 2003, Couture defeated Liddell at UFC 43 to win the interim light heavyweight title. He then unified the title by defeating Tito Ortiz at UFC 44. This victory made Couture the first fighter in UFC history to win championships in 2 different weight classes. One of the most memorable rivalries in UFC history was between Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell. The two fought 3 times, and each fight was a battle of wills, skill, and experience. Couture won their first fight at UFC 43, but Liddell came back to win the next 2 at UFC 52 and UFC 57, both by knockout. This rivalry wasn't just about the fights themselves. It was about two different styles clashing. Couture's grappling and wrestling were pitted against Little's powerful striking. The two complemented each other's strengths and weaknesses, and their trilogy helped elevate the UFC to new heights of popularity. But Couture's rivalries didn't end with Liddell. He also faced other legends like Vitor Belfort and Brock Lesnar. In fact, Couture fought and defeated Belfort twice, winning the UFC heavyweight title in their second bout at UFC 49. However, one of Couture's most famous fights came later in his career, when he faced Brock Lesnar at UFC 91. At 45 years old, Couture was defending his heavyweight title against the younger, much larger Lesnar. While Couture ultimately lost the fight, his willingness to face a physically imposing opponent like Lesnar only added to his legacy. He suffered his share of losses, but each one taught him something new, fueling his incredible comebacks. In 2003, Couture faced Vitor Belfort at UFC 46 and lost the light heavyweight title due to a doctor's stoppage after an accidental cut. Many fighters might have been discouraged, but Couture came back stronger, reclaiming his title in a rematch at UFC 49 later that year. Then came his iconic trilogy with Chuck Liddell. After defeating Liddell at UFC 43, Couture lost the rematch at UFC 52 via knockout and again at UFC 57 in their final showdown. These were tough losses, but Couture, true to form, didn't let them define his legacy. How does a fighter bounce back from a knockout like that? In 2007, at the age of 43, he came out of retirement to defeat Tim Sylvia for the UFC heavyweight title at UFC 68, once again proving that age and setbacks could never hold him down. In 2011, at the age of 48, Randy Couture retired from the UFC for the final time, but his career didn't stop when he hung up his gloves. Couture quickly transitioned into a successful acting career, appearing in films like The Expendables alongside stars like Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, and Bruce Willis. His transition to Hollywood was seamless. Beyond acting, Couture also remained heavily involved in the world of MMA. He opened his own gym, Extreme Couture, which has become one of the premier training facilities for both professional fighters and aspiring athletes. Extreme Couture is known for producing top-tier talent, and it's a testament to Couture's enduring influence in the sport. In recent years, Couture has also worked as an analyst and commentator for MMA events, sharing his vast knowledge of the sport with fans around the world. Even though he's no longer fighting, his insights are still highly valued by both fighters and audiences alike. Fast forward to 2024, and Randy Couture's name still echoes within the MMA world. Even though he's no longer actively fighting, his influence is as strong as ever. This year, Couture has been involved using his platform to support veterans and raise awareness for PTSD, an issue close to his heart, given his time in the military. Recently, Couture has also been in the news for his involvement in the promotion of safer fighting techniques, advocating for better protection for fighters both inside and outside the octagon. He's been working alongside other UFC legends to improve fighter safety regulations, ensuring that the next generation of athletes doesn't suffer the long-term consequences that many pioneers of the sport have faced. And before you go, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep, go into the legends of UFC, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on future videos.